Welcome to our tutorial on GIS. So everyone by this point should have downloaded the data that you need for this workshop on your computer. We're going to just jump straight into the program. So if you have installed, let's open ArcGIS Pro. ArcGIS Pro is an application that uses a registration of your username and email to activate the license. So you can only use the tool by logging into the tool. So when you open this program, there should be an area where you can sign into your ArcGIS account. I think it might be in the upper right corner. And so you need to sign in to the university ArcGIS in order for this to work. Let me sign out of mine just to show how it would look like. So it will look something like this. I'll click sign in. And then you're going to want to make sure that you choose this bottom one here, your ArcGIS organization's URL. Type in Auburn University. This is where you sign into your account. And so once that is signed in, you should now have full access to ArcGIS. When you sign into the program, one thing I would like you all to do is to go to the settings button on the side here. And then in the settings side, there is a tab called licensing. Choose licensing. And what you just want to double check to make sure that all your licenses and extensions are enabled. You should see that you have ArcGIS Pro Advanced set to yes, then all these extensions set to yes as well. There's a few ones that aren't set to yes, but most of them should be. You now can go back to the home page and you're ready to make a map. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new map. So up here, there is these new project options. I'm going to choose map right here as our option. You're going to give it a name. So I'll call this one Elba and then click OK. And then it's going to start a new map file. So this is the map view. Hopefully, most of you should have a screen that looks something like this, where on the left side, you have your table of contents. In the middle, you have the map. On the right, you have a series of other panels that you can use to add data to your map or process data. But the first thing that's just always good to do is click around in the map and just get used to the navigation. So I'm just clicking with the left mouse button to just move around. If you use the right mouse button, you can zoom in and out. Now, when you see ArcGIS, it starts with this default map view of the entire world here. Whenever you're making a map, you need to make sure you're using the correct projection of the location that you're mapping. Basically, the Earth is a sphere, but maps are 2D drawings. And so you need to find a way to take what is essentially a three-dimensional surface and represent it as a 2D plan. Depending on the location of where you're working in the world is, different cities and different locations have coordinate systems that are best suited for those specific areas. So one thing that I would like you all to do, if you have the catalog pane on the right side open, go to this tab called Portal. I'm going to go to this button here that looks like a little cloud. It's called ArcGIS Online. And click on that. And then you can search for data sets in that line there. I'm going to search for NAD 1983. And then the first option you see here is this thing called USA State Plane Zones. So click on that, right click on that, and then choose Add to Current Map. And you see what popped up onto the map now is a map of the United States, but it's taken all the individual states and it's kind of broken them up into these zones. Depending on where you work in the United States, you always want to make sure that the map sets up the coordinate system based on the location of the city within one of these little shapes here. So let's zoom into Alabama and let's find the city that we're working in, which is Elba. So once you sort of have Elba in the map space that you're seeing here, what we want to do is want to set the coordinate system of this map to be the location of where Elba intersects with that big map there. So I'm just going to click anywhere on this here. And right now what I'm actually clicking on is the layer that's at the topmost layer of our drawing contents on the side here. I'm actually clicking on the state plane zone map. And so we are in Alabama East. Basically, all it means is that if the city fits within Alabama East, we need to set the coordinate system of this map to be Alabama East. So here's how we do that. Close out of this. In the table of contents on the side, at the very top where it says map, double click on that. It brings up your properties. And then in the left side here, you'll see coordinate systems right there. Click on that. And this is where you change the coordinate system of the entire map. The easiest way to find the coordinate system for, say, a state in the United States is you just go to this little search bar right here and type in the state. So Alabama will be the location. Hit enter after you type in the name. And then you'll see that on the bottom here, all the options that are not Alabama will be filtered out. So I'm going to go to projected coordinate system. I'm going to expand that, state plane, expand that. Now you see here NAD 1983. This is the coordinate system that we're using. And because we're in the United States, we typically default to feet as our unit. So I'm going to go to this one right here, NAD 1983, 2011 US feet. Expand that. And now you see you have the two options for Alabama, Alabama East and Alabama West. And if you remember, Alabama East is a system that we want to use. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to click OK. And voila, we've changed the coordinate system on the map. The first step that you always do whenever you get your map located correctly is you want to set what's called a bookmark. In the map ribbon at the top, right around the upper left, there is this little book symbol, bookmarks. And in here, you can create a new bookmark. So I'm going to expand that and choose new bookmark. I'll give it a name. I'll call it Elba and then choose OK. So what's a bookmark? A bookmark is this. Go to your bookmark and then just choose Elba and you're back. So you use bookmarks to save locations of areas in case you get lost or you move somewhere else in the map. I'm going to remove this layer that we added initially. So to remove a layer, you can just highlight the layer, right click on it, and then choose remove. Now remove that. And so we're simply back to our base map here. You can change the base map of this easily. So right now it has this very simple topographic hillshade look to it. In the map tab, there is this option here called base map right there. If you expand that option, you have all these options for how the map can look as your default base map. The one that I think is the most useful is the very first one called imagery. If I choose that, it just brings up a imagery layer of the area. So GIS is a vector-based drawing tool. Vector-based data is the primary layer type that you add to it. And a vector type that is the most common is called a shape file. A shape file you can think of essentially as CAD line work. So the data that I put into Box is data that I've acquired for you all to use. We need to add that data into this map. So how do we do that? I'm going to go back to the catalog tab. If you can't find it, at the bottom of the right-hand side column, you'll see all these little tabs. Again, if you ever get lost and you can't find it, you can always go to the view ribbon at the top and go just click on the catalog pane right there to find it. And we're going to go to the project option at the top of the catalog pane right there. And we need to connect to the folder that the GIS data that we downloaded is located on your computer. So I'm going to go to this folder option right there, then right click on that. And you see there's this add folder connection option right there. I'm going to click on add folder connection. It's going to bring up this thing. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to find the location of it. I saved it on my desktop right here, this number 2 GIS data right here. I'm just going to copy the URL of this location, Control-C on my keyboard. Then I'm just going to paste it into this line down there like that. And you hit the enter key and that's it. And now you can see on the side here, GIS data is now added to your catalog. So now that you have the folder connected, you can expand that folder in your catalog, and then you have access to all the data sets that I've given you. So let's start with the SHP folder, which is shorthand for shapefile. Expand that. And all these things here, these are data sets that I've acquired for you all for this studio. So to add a data set into the map, it's as easy as clicking on it and then just dragging it into the map like that. So I added in the first one, which is road. I'm going to turn off the background. So you can easily do that just by unchecking the visibility of it right there. So you can sort of see the actual layer by itself. And I'll just zoom into it and just see what's going on here. I'm going to zoom into Elba, which is this part right there. So what we have here is a base line work layer of the roads of Coffee County and of Elba. So this is just nice base line work for the road lines of Elba. If I zoom into the road here, you see that it has a very simple symbology associated with it, which is like this blue with a gray outline to it. You can adjust symbology of any layer in GIS to make it look like the way you want to look like. And so in the road layer there, I'm just going to click on the little symbol icon of it, click to modify symbol, and then you should see all these options pop up on the right side of how you can make it look. So there are some default color palettes that you can use. Let's just choose one just for fun. Let's choose like, I don't know, choose anyone you want. I don't care what you choose. And you can make it look like the options that you have there. Or if, say, for instance, you don't like these options here, let's say we want to have it as a black outline, which is the first option. It gives you a simple black outline layer, but then you say you want it, I like it, but I want the line to be gray or whatever. You can go to the properties button at the symbol window on the side there, and you have a bunch of options, line weights, line colors, whatever you like. Let's make it red for fun, hit apply. Then you can make it look red. Whenever you change these options here, you want to hit the apply button at the bottom of that window for it to change. Then I'll just go back, which is this arrow at the top left of the symbology window to get back to this main page here. So that's how you can begin to color your layers, make things look like the way you want to look, so it's easier to follow and read. Okay, let's add another layer. Let's go back to your catalog and let's go add this one called 05 buildings. Drag it into your map. I'm going to turn off the road layer on the contents there just to see what that looks like right there. It's called a figure ground map. A figure ground map is essentially a map that shows only built form so that you can kind of distinguish between built space and unbuilt space. Now, traditionally, figure ground maps are white backgrounds with black building footprints. So let's make it look more like that. So I'm going to click on the building symbology option there. So I'll click on the symbol there, and then we'll go to the gallery option on the symbology window, and then scroll down through this until you find there should be down closer to the bottom of this window here, a black option. I'll choose that. And then this is a classic figure ground map. So let's add another layer. So let's go back to the catalog, and now let's add some more natural features. So down here, I have a layer called 07P River. So let's add that into this map here. This is the primary water body that we're going to focus on this semester, is the P River. And let's also add another one called creeks. 11 creeks, a few layers down from P River. Let's add that too. That'll give us some of the other elements as well. So you can begin to see that we're creating a very beautiful, simple base map of this area. Let's change the symbology of the creeks so to make them a little bit more legible. Let's choose P River symbology. It seems to make sense to choose like water for this one, so I choose water. Go to the creeks, I'll make it the same exact color. So we'll go to creeks and choose water for that. Okay, so now that you've created a basic map that we can use, let's actually export this out and create a map from this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the Insert tab at the top. And in order to prepare the map to be exported out, you need to create a layout. So at the top of the Insert tab, there is this new layout option there. And this is a bunch of different layout sizes that you can use to set up this map here. For the first map that we're going to create for this class, these maps are going to be 18 inches by 18 inches. That's what I have in the assignment. So we're actually need to create our own custom map size. So I'm going to go to the very bottom of this, and there's a custom page size option right there, which I'll choose and click. And then here you can set a custom page size. So we'll do 18 by 18. Then you choose OK. And then you see that you've created basically a page space. We need to actually add the map frame in here. So the first thing you do at the top of the insert ribbon at the top, there's this map frame option there. Click on that, and you'll see that you can add a couple of options here. Choose the one that looks like the map you just made. Click on that. And then what you should do is click on the upper left and then click and drag down to the bottom right to kind of create a little window in the map. And that's essentially setting up a page for this map here. Now, this map here is not dynamic. If you actually want to activate this so that you can change the scale of it and move around and the framing of this, you want to click on this map frame, make sure it's selected, and then you should be able to go to the layout ribbon at the top. And then in the middle of the layout ribbon, there is this activate map frame button. If you choose that, now when you pan around, you're panning inside of the map, in addition to be able to zooming in and out of it as well. So we want to now basically set a scale for this map. So to change the scale, at the very bottom of the layout tab, there is a tiny little window with a scale number, in this case, 1 to 7,900 something. If you expand that window there, you see all these scale options that you can use, but we actually want to change the scale format to be something that makes sense for the use of planners and architects and landscape architects. So I'm going to choose customize in this option there, and it brings up a couple of options for scale formats. I'm going to go to the scale format option. And you can see now you have a couple of standard formats that make sense for maps. And the one that we use most commonly is the 1 inch equals some number of feet. Let's use that one. And then choose OK. And now you see the scale at the bottom has now been adjusted to that scale. So now what you want to do is you want to set that scale to be a logical scale. So for the assignment that we're doing in this class, I believe I have in the assignment sheet that we're going to do 1 inch equals 500. Because that kind of fits the city of Elba fairly well in the majority of this page here. So I'm going to do just kind of like set it up and kind of set it up like this so that the town square kind of close to the middle. So kind of get your map looking something like this. Once you have the map located where you like, make a bookmark. And so I'm going to go to the top here in the map ribbon, bookmark, create a new bookmark. We'll call this one Elba 1500 and choose OK. Now that's saved. Now we need to close the map layout activation. So that involves going into the layout tab at the top, then choosing close activation. And if you do that, now you're back to where you started, where the map is now static. It doesn't move. You're all good. It is not a bad time also just to save the project. So in the upper left corner of the interface is the save. So save often. A few last things that we can do before we export this out. We want to add a scale bar and a north arrow just to have those things on the map before we even go into that. So you can see in the insert tab at the top, you actually have those options for you. North arrow, scale bar. If you choose north arrow, the dropdown, you see all these graphic options for a north arrow. Always pick the simplest option that you can find. Like choose like one of these simple, like this is fine. This is fine. Let's just choose, one that's really simple and not crazy. Now let's add a scale bar as well. So we'll go to the next one, scale bar, and you see all his graphic scales here. You can choose any one that you like. You can choose a scale line. You can choose an alternating scale. Have fun with this. Let's just choose the first option here, a scale line right there. And then what you want to do is you want to click and drag to kind of add that into your map there. So you see that now that is a graphic that's sitting on top of the map there. You can customize this a little bit more. So right now it's in miles. So you can right click on the scale bar, choose properties. And then on the right-hand side, you should be able to see things you can adjust. So in map units, we'll change that to US feet. And now you see that the units have changed to feet. This is dynamic. So if you change the size of the scale bar, the numbers of the scale bar adjust along with it. And what I highly recommend doing is just adjust the scale bar until one of the numbers is the same as the number of your scale. So in this case, since our map is 1 inch equals 500, I want to adjust this scale bar until right there. You see how one of the numbers is now 500. That just makes it so that when you print this, that's an inch. That's an inch right there. And I just kind of move it around, make it kind of situated in a nice location. Now we're good. Simple map, ready to go. So let's export this out into a format that we can use in Illustrator. I'm going to go to the Share tab at the top, and then there is this Export Layout option there. And I'm going to choose this first one, which is Default AIX. And then File Type right here, if you expand that, you'll see all these formats. There is no Illustrator format, which is one of the things about ArcGIS Pro, which I find annoying. But you can have formats that are Illustrator adjacent, which are close enough. And the one that is the most close to use is this format called SVG. So I'm going to choose SVG. In the name of this, I'm just going to click on the folder, and I'm just going to move to, I'll save it on my desktop. So what I'll do is I'll click on the PC on the side here, go to desktop, and I'll just save it in the desktop. And we'll change the name of this. Right now it's set to layout.svg. Let's call this one Elba simple base map.svg. Then just use save. One thing that I would do, make sure that if the map that you're exporting only has shapefile layers, you want to make sure that the vector resolution here is cranked pretty high. In this case, I have that set to 900 dpi. And then everything else, just make sure it looks exactly the way I have it here. And then just choose export. And then that's exported. So I'm going to open Adobe Illustrator. So in Illustrator, I'm going to open that SVG file. And I'm just going to choose open. I'm going to go to my desktop where I saved this file. And then I saved it as Elba simple base map. I'll choose open. If this thing comes up, just choose OK. And there you go. You have this map in Illustrator. If you expand the layer panel, if I expand the group of the layer 1, it splits it out into the layer of the object that it is. So scale bar is in a layer, north arrow is in a layer. If I expand map frame, you see that it nicely also takes the layer in GIS and it puts it into its own layer. So it's already organized for you. The issue with this, though, is that these layers are actually just the name of a group. If I choose the selection tool and I click on the map, it selects everything. You see how it selects everything? And so it just makes everything a group. So it means that basically if you want to move things around, you don't have control over everything. First thing I do in Illustrator, I create a bunch of layers. So I just go down, create new layer, click on that, make a bunch of layers. I expand the master layer for the export. I'm gonna take scale bar, I'm gonna slide it to layer 7. Take north arrow, slide it to layer 6. Take the creek layer in this, slide it to another layer. Take P river, slide that to another layer. Take buildings, slide that to another layer. Take road, slide that to another layer. And then just do it until you have nothing else that you need to slide in here. These groups with no names, these are just essentially just map frame views. If I click on this here, it's just like a white box that represents the background. So if it doesn't have a real name, like this stuff here actually isn't important. So I'm just going to hide this for now. And now what you do is you take this layer here, you click on the layer name, and then you can ungroup that. And now it's still organized in the road layer. So if I could hit Control-Shift-G to ungroup everything, it should ungroup. And then also one thing that I forgot to mention, sometimes you can't ungroup layers if there's a clipping path in the layer. So right here, there's a clipping path. So this is a trick that I always do whenever we're doing this kind of work is you go to select at the top of Illustrator, object clipping masks. It only selects the clipping masks in all the layers. Then what I do is I take my finger, I move it over to the delete key on my keyboard, I hit delete. And this kills all those clipping planes. And now you can go back to this here and you can continue ungrouping it. Now it's nice and clean. It's now buildings. You can go here, ungroup, until you just have the simple buildings as is. Go to P river, ungroup, and then just do that for all the layers until you have a simple organization of your layers like so. For the scale bar, you see how like each letter splits out? Maybe undo it to the point where the letters are still in their groups so that you don't like completely remove the words. Now you basically have an Illustrator file that's ready to edit. What I would do also obviously is, once you have the layers cleaned up and organized, you would obviously change the name of the layer. Say for instance, layer 2, this is roads. So just change the name to roads. Layer 3 is buildings. But say for instance, it went to buildings, you can easily select everything here and change the building color to be like red or whatever. So anyway, this is Illustrator. We don't need to get into too much of that today. This map that we're creating today, this base map is the first map that we're creating as part of this assignment. It's a very, very easy map, but this kind of serves as a purpose to introduce you to GIS and the process of creating maps and exporting it. And number 2, creating a simple plan that we can bring to the site of Elba and then use it as kind of like a draft, as like thing you can sketch on and draft and bring with you. Make sure that you also are kind of injecting your own creativity in this. For this simple base map, just explore a bit more of that graphic side that you have done in the past. The key though is simple. And what I mean by that is anything in graphic design, you don't want to put like 100 colors on the plan. You usually want to stick to black and white grayscale and maybe one color. Or 2 colors, like one main color and one secondary color.
What do you do in GIS if you by accident X out of the map tab?
Good question. So you go to the project tab in the catalog there, and then right here, there's maps. So right there, that map there is what you need. Just double click on that. You come back to the map. You can actually give the map a name too. So right now it's just called map. Just click on in the name and yeah, you should be able to rename it. So if you call it Elba, you see that in the catalog, that name changes to Elba as well. So again, just a reminder,